There comes a moment in every life when the quiet inner voice that whispers truth becomes louder than the noise of excuses. You know that voice. It speaks in the early morning when your mind is still uncluttered, when your soul has not yet been drowned by the world's demands. It tells you what you are capable of. It reminds you of the strength you've forgotten. It calls you toward the life you were meant to live. But right after that moment of clarity, another voice rises. The voice that negotiates, bargains, delays, postpones, and convinces you that later is safer than now. And so many people spend their entire lives listening to the wrong voice, not because they are weak, but because they have become accustomed to negotiating with themselves. You negotiate with your dreams, you negotiate with your potential, you negotiate with your destiny, and in that negotiation, you lose the very opportunities that could have transformed everything. The truth is simple. Every time you postpone doing what your soul knows you need to do, you trade progress for comfort. You trade possibility for familiarity. You trade tomorrow's greatness for today's ease. But the soul does not thrive in comfort zones. The soul does not expand in delayed decisions. The soul grows the moment you stop negotiating with yourself and simply do the thing that you're called to do. It's not that you lack discipline. You have the discipline. It's not that you lack motivation. You have felt the fire many times. What you lack is the willingness to honor the inner command the moment it arrives. You silence it, you push it away, you promise that you will come back to it later. But later rarely comes. Later becomes the graveyard of dreams. Later becomes the place where unused potential goes to sleep. And later becomes the story you tell yourself to justify why you stayed the same. There is a deeper truth within you, a truth that doesn't require planning, justification, or explanation. It simply requires action, pure action, direct action, honest action. When you stop negotiating with yourself, you step into a state of flow where hesitation dissolves, doubt loses power, and clarity leads the way. You stop thinking about the mountain and simply take the first step. You stop analyzing every detail and move in the direction you've been guided. The moment you act, the universe rearranges itself to meet you at the point of your commitment. But that rearrangement will never begin while you're still arguing with yourself. Most people don't fail because they are incapable. They fail because they negotiate themselves out of the very actions that would change their lives. They negotiate their morning routines, their self-discipline, their goals, their boundaries, their spiritual practices, their financial dreams, their health, their purpose. They negotiate everything, and every negotiation chips away at the integrity of their inner being. You know this feeling, the heaviness that comes after breaking a promise you made to yourself. It isn't guilt, it isn't shame, it is the weight of self-betrayal. It is the realization that you knew what to do, but you talked yourself out of it again. When you stop negotiating, that heaviness lifts. You begin to trust yourself again. You begin to believe in your own word. You begin to recognize your own power. There is no force outside of you stronger than the force within you that is trying to guide you. But that force cannot override your free will. It cannot force you to move. It cannot force you to expand. It can only nudge, whisper, guide, but ultimately you must decide. You must move. You must act. You must become the person who no longer asks, "Should I?" but instead declares, "I will." Look at the moments in your life when everything shifted for the better. They were not moments of negotiation. They were moments of decision. Moments where you leaped before you had proof. Moments where you acted before you felt ready. Moments where you trusted the inner spark more than the outer circumstances. That is the power of unwavering action. It transforms you long before the outer results arrive. And as you transform, everything around you begins to respond differently too. Think of how much time you've spent debating with yourself over things that should never require debate. Waking up early should not be a negotiation. Honoring your health should not be a negotiation. Protecting your peace should not be a negotiation. Pursuing your purpose should not be a negotiation. Living with intention should never be something you talk yourself out of. When you stop negotiating, You raise the standards of your inner world. You elevate your expectations. You step into the kind of consistency that rewires the shape of your destiny. You have a mind that wants comfort and a soul that wants expansion. These two forces will argue endlessly unless you choose which one leads your life. When the mind leads, you negotiate. When the soul leads, you act. When the mind leads, you delay. When the soul leads, you move. When the mind leads, you fear. When the soul leads, you trust. Your life will change the moment you decide that the soul leads, not occasionally, not when convenient, not when the conditions are perfect, but always. And here's the truth that many people don't want to face. The things you negotiate with yourself about are the exact things that would change your life the fastest. You don't negotiate about brushing your teeth because you know the consequence is immediate and predictable. But you negotiate about self-growth because the consequences feel distant. And the rewards feel abstract. But the rewards are not abstract. They are real. They are profound. They are transformative. And they begin the moment you choose action over argument. There is a version of you waiting on the other side of every excuse you've been making. A version of you who doesn't delay, stall, postpone, or hesitate. A version of you who doesn't seek permission from fear or validation from comfort. A version of you who is decisive, intentional, and aligned with the highest expression of your life. But you cannot meet that version while holding on to the negotiation patterns that have kept you stagnant. To become that version, you must end the internal debate. The mind will say, let's think about it. The soul will say, let's move. The mind will say, maybe tomorrow. The soul will say, begin now. The mind will say, what if I fail? The soul will say, what if you become everything you were meant to be? When you stop negotiating, you stop giving the mind permission to control your destiny. You stop allowing fear to speak louder than truth. You stop giving power to the imaginary scenarios that have never happened. And you begin to give power to the present moment, the only place where real change occurs. Understand this clearly. Your future is shaped not by the dreams you talk about, but by the actions you take. Action is the language of commitment. Action is the evidence of belief. Action is the antidote to fear, and action is the signal you send to the universe that you are ready for more. Every great transformation begins with one simple moment, the moment you say, I'm done negotiating with myself. When you strip away negotiation, what remains is clarity. Clarity reveals what matters. Clarity shows you who you are becoming. Clarity cuts through the noise of distractions and returns you to your purpose. You no longer waste energy arguing with your own instincts. You no longer exhaust yourself with mental debates. You become direct. You become efficient. You become aligned. There is a profound power that awakens when your inner world is no longer divided. When the voice that knows what to do is the same voice that chooses what to do. When your desires and your actions match. When your word to yourself becomes sacred. The moment you reach that state, a new flow of life begins to open up. You start finishing what you used to postpone. You start creating what you used to only imagine. You start becoming who you used to only dream of. And the world responds to this version of you. Opportunities appear because your energy is no longer scattered. People feel your certainty because you are no longer conflicted. Doors open because you are no longer walking hesitantly toward them. Life begins to reveal its generosity because you finally show up with the full power of your intention. But as long as you negotiate with yourself, life holds back. Not as punishment, but because it cannot deliver to a version of you that is undecided. The universe responds to clarity, not hesitation. It responds to conviction, not confusion. It responds to movement, not negotiation. So long as you are bargaining with your own soul, you remain in a state of energetic limbo, wanting change but clinging to comfort, craving growth but resisting movement. You know this inner conflict well. Everyone does. But you also know the solution. It has been with you all along. It is the simplest truth you've always known. Just do it. Not tomorrow, not later, not after you feel inspired, but now. The moment you feel the nudge, act. The moment you sense the direction, follow. The moment you hear the calling, move. Because the life you want is not waiting for more thinking, it is waiting for more doing. And doing is not about perfect steps, it is about consistent steps, small steps, honest steps, courageous steps. Steps that may feel uncomfortable at first but liberating soon after. Every time you act without negotiating, you reclaim a piece of your power. You reinforce a new identity. You become the kind of person who follows through, and the world reorganizes itself around that identity. You have within you the strength to rise every time you fall, the wisdom to choose the higher path even when the lower path feels easier, and the courage to say yes to your purpose even when fear whispers no. But none of that matters unless you stop delaying the life you are meant to live. There is no special moment in the future when everything will align. The alignment begins the moment you act. The transformation begins the moment you stop arguing with yourself. Because the moment you choose action over hesitation, a new identity begins forming inside you. At first it may feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable, because you have spent so much of your life negotiating with your own potential that decisive action seems unnatural. But with every choice you make without debate, you strengthen a different part of yourself, the part that has always known who you truly are. That part is not hesitant, not confused, not divided. It is focused, intentional, and alive. It knows what you are capable of. It knows why you're here, and it has been waiting patiently for you to stop watering down your own power. Each time you silence the bargaining voice in your mind, you reclaim the energy you've been giving away to doubt. That energy doesn't disappear. It returns to you, and you can feel it. Suddenly you feel more alert, more grounded, more in command of your decisions. This is because indecision drains the spirit. Constant inner negotiation drains the mind. When you're divided internally, you scatter your power. But when you see without hesitation, you unify your inner world and your strength grows. You step into a kind of internal alignment that feels like truth vibrating through your entire being. Think about how many times you knew what you needed to do, but you delayed. You negotiated the simple tasks, the meaningful commitments, the promises you whispered to yourself in quiet moments of clarity. You postponed the phone call you needed to make, the prayer you felt called to say, the habit you were ready to build, the boundary you needed to set, the project you were meant to begin. And each delay felt small at the time, but collectively, they shaped a life that moved slower than your spirit desired. Every negotiation is a small subtraction from your destiny. Every hesitation is a missed opportunity to align with the person you were created to become. But once you stop negotiating, everything begins to accelerate. Momentum becomes your ally. You move with a speed that surprises even you. You wake up earlier, not because you force yourself, but because you trust yourself. You do the work not because you have to, but because it feels aligned. You stop waiting for motivation, and instead embody discipline as a natural expression of who you are. Discipline stops being a chore and becomes an act of self-respect. You no longer ask, "Can I do this?" but instead declare, "This is who I am now." When negotiation ends, identity begins. The person you become through consistent action is far stronger than the person you imagine during periods of hesitation. Action sculpts you. Action sharpens you. Action reveals capabilities you could never discover while trapped in the cycle of analysis and delay. The doorway to your next level is unlocked the moment you decide to walk through it without questioning yourself. And the truth is, you have known this all along. There has never been a moment in your life when hesitation served your growth. Not once. Every milestone you have ever reached came from movement, not negotiation. You may think you need more time, more clarity, more confidence, or more preparation, but those are illusions created by the mind to justify delaying your transformation. Confidence does not come before action. It is built through action. Clarity does not come through thinking. It comes through moving. Strength does not appear while waiting. It emerges through doing. The belief in your own capabilities does not grow by negotiation. It grows by stepping into situations where your capabilities must reveal themselves. There is a deeper intelligence within you that does not negotiate. It speaks directly. It guides gently, but firmly. It whispers the truth without arguing. This is the voice you hear when you are spiritually grounded, when your heart is still, when you are aligned with purpose. That voice is never complicated. It does not confuse you. It simply asks you to trust. But trust can't grow in a mind full of negotiations. Trust grows in the space where you choose yourself without hesitation. And when you choose yourself consistently, something miraculous happens. Life begins to choose you back. Doors open that were previously closed. Opportunities appear that you once thought were out of reach. People arrive who speak the language of your growth rather than the language of your fear. You begin attracting experiences that resonate with your higher identity, not your lower habits. This is not magic, it is alignment. The outer world is always responding to your inner world. When your inner world stops negotiating, your outer world stops resisting. You must understand that the version of you who hesitates is built on past patterns. Those patterns were shaped by fear, by doubt, by conditioning, by the expectations of others, and by the comfort of staying small. But the version of you who acts without negotiating is built on truth. Truth does not negotiate. Truth does not ask for permission. Truth simply is. And when you align with that truth through your actions, you become unstoppable. Imagine waking up every day with a spirit that is not torn in two directions. Imagine living without the constant debate in your mind. Imagine choosing your growth with the same certainty you choose to breathe. That is what it feels like to live without negotiating with yourself. It feels like coming home to your own power. It feels like finally stepping into the life you were meant to live, rather than the one fear convinced you to accept. Some people think the battle is between them and the world, but the real battle is internal. It is between you and the part of you that is comfortable with stagnation. It is between you and the part that fears change. It is between you and the part that prefers excuses over progress. But you are not obligated to keep fighting that battle. You can end it instantly by choosing to stop negotiating and start living as if your decisions are final. And when your decisions become final, your results become undeniable. Every time you say, "I'll start tomorrow," you reinforce the identity of someone who does not follow through. But every time you say, "I will do it now," and you follow through, you reinforce the identity of someone who is powerful, focused, and trustworthy. This identity becomes the foundation for every future achievement. Because once you trust yourself, nothing can stop you. The greatest obstacle in your life has never been lack of opportunity. It has always been the internal dialogue that keeps you from stepping into opportunity fully. You've experienced moments where you took action without thinking twice, and those were the moments that changed everything. Think back to them. Those were times when you felt alive, aligned, and unstoppable. Now imagine living like that consistently, not occasionally. Imagine being governed by the same certainty daily. You would shift timelines. You would break generational patterns. You would rise into a version of yourself that others would only recognize through your energy, not your explanations. The reason action feels powerful is because it reconnects you with your own divinity. You were not created to live in hesitation. You were created to create, to build, to move, to evolve. Every fiber of your being is designed for expansion, and expansion cannot occur in a mind clouded with negotiation. Expansion happens in movement. Expansion happens in decision. Expansion happens in trust. When the mind starts to negotiate, it is simply doing what it has been trained to do, protect you from discomfort. But discomfort is not danger. Growth lives in discomfort. Breakthroughs live in discomfort. Transformation begins where comfort ends. You must train your mind to understand that discomfort is not something to avoid, but something to walk through. And the more you walk through it, the less power it has over you. You already know your next step. Even if you pretend you don't, you do. The answer has been with you the entire time. You feel it in your chest. You sense it in your intuition. You hear it in the quiet moments, but you cover it with negotiation because acting on it feels like stepping into the unknown. Yet the unknown is where your evolution lives. Stop telling yourself that you need more time. Time is not the issue. Courage is. And courage does not arrive before the action. it arrives because of it. Your courage grows each time you choose movement over negotiation. That's how you build a life that reflects your highest potential. Not through waiting, not through planning endlessly, but through bold and consistent action. You have spent enough years negotiating with your potential, enough months negotiating with your dreams, enough days negotiating with your habits. You don't need another cycle of hesitation to prove that it leads nowhere. You already know the outcome of waiting. Now it's time to discover the outcome of acting. The life you want is not hiding from you. It is waiting for you to stop hiding from it. Greatness does not arrive wrapped in comfort. Purpose does not rise in negotiation. Destiny does not unfold in hesitation. They reveal themselves when you step forward without needing reassurance, when you honor the inner push, when you trust the inner knowing, when you say yes to your calling and let the details figure themselves out. There is a fire inside you that has been dimmed by overthinking. There is a strength inside you that has been softened by procrastination. There is a destiny inside you that has been delayed by negotiation, but none of that is permanent. You can choose differently in this very moment. You can choose power instead of fear. You can choose action instead of negotiation. You can choose to become the person you were always meant to be, not the person your doubts convinced you to settle for. And as you step into this new version of yourself, you will notice something extraordinary. The world why. L begin to reflect your internal shift. What once felt difficult will feel natural. What once felt overwhelming will feel manageable. What once felt impossible will feel inevitable. Because when you stop negotiating with yourself, you stop negotiating with life. You start showing up with a vibration of certainty, clarity, and commitment that life cannot ignore. And it is in this state, this powerful, aligned, decisive state, that your greatest breakthroughs begin to unfold. Because breakthroughs are not accidents, nor are they random blessings that fall upon the lucky. Breakthroughs are the natural consequence of aligned action meeting unwavering intention. They occur when you no longer divide yourself between wanting and doing, when you release the mental tug-of-war that has kept your potential trapped inside cycles of hesitation. A breakthrough is simply the moment your inner certainty becomes stronger than your inner negotiation. And when that shift happens, even slightly, the entire trajectory of your life begins to turn. You will start to notice that the things that once triggered doubt no longer hold power over you. The fears that used to freeze you slowly begin to dissolve. The excuses that once felt convincing begin to sound hollow. The hesitation that once felt familiar begins to feel uncomfortable. This is the sign of your inner transformation. You are outgrowing the mental patterns that once kept you small. You are rising into a version of yourself that no longer tolerates the internal dialogue of limitation. And once that happens, action becomes your default state. You won't need to force yourself. You won't need to convince yourself. You won't need to drag yourself into alignment. It will feel natural, like breathing, like something your entire being has been waiting for. This is the power of consistency, not the harsh kind that is rooted in self-pressure, but the gentle kind that emerges from inner truth. When you stop negotiating, you begin to live from truth instead of fear, and truth naturally moves you forward. You will discover that you don't need motivation every day to remain committed. Motivation is fleeting. It rises and falls like the tide. But commitment, when rooted in truth, is steady. It does not waver, it does not weaken, it becomes part of your identity. And identity is far more powerful than inspiration. When you see yourself as a person who follows through, you follow through automatically. When you see yourself as a person who takes action without negotiation, you take action without negotiation. Your habits become an extension of who you believe yourself to be. You are not trying to change your behavior, you're changing your identity. And when identity shifts, behavior follows without resistance. This is why the great transformations of life do not come from forcing yourself into discipline. They come from aligning with the truth of who you already are beneath the layers of hesitation. You are not becoming something new, you are returning to something eternal. You are stepping back into the clarity and confidence that existed long before life taught you to doubt yourself. There's a moment in human development when a person stops thinking like a prisoner of their past and begins thinking like the architect of their future. That moment is the birth of true freedom, not freedom from responsibility, but freedom from self-sabotage, freedom from the invisible chains of procrastination, freedom from the weight of excuses. And that freedom does not arrive from wishing, it arrives from doing. Action is liberation. Action is transformation. Action is the bridge between who you have been and who you are becoming. Every step you take without negotiation strengthens the bridge, making it easier to cross each time. You start walking with a new posture, a new energy, a new level of calm confidence. You begin trusting that the force guiding you is wiser than the fear trying to stop you, and that trust becomes the foundation of your growth. Trust that you are guided. Trust that you are capable. Trust that the path will unfold as you walk it. Trust that your inner knowing is not random. It is instruction. It is direction. It is your destiny speaking to you through intuition. When you stop negotiating, you stop drowning out that voice. You start hearing it clearly. You start feeling it deeply. You start honoring it completely. There will be times when the old patterns try to return. Moments when the mind whispers you can skip it today. Moments when fatigue or doubt tries to pull you back into negotiation. In those moments, remind yourself that the feeling of hesitation is just a remnant of your past identity. It is not who you are anymore. You have outgrown the version of yourself that relied on excuses. You are no longer someone who negotiates with your own growth. You are someone who honors the inner call instantly. And the more you affirm this through action, the faster the old identity dissolves. Soon you won't even resonate with the habits or thoughts that once held you back. You'll look at your past patterns from a distance and wonder how you ever believed they defined you. That is the magic of conscious evolution. It makes the old version of you unrecognizable. Not because you forced yourself to change, but because you stopped restricting your own expansion. You will also begin to realize that so much of the struggle you once felt was not because you were incapable, but because you were resisting your own inner truth. Resistance creates heaviness. Resistance creates confusion. Resistance creates emotional friction. But when you stop negotiating, resistance dissolves. Action becomes light. Progress becomes natural. Growth becomes the expected outcome, not the exception. You aren't meant to live in a state of internal conflict. You aren't meant to spend your energy arguing with yourself. You aren't meant to battle between desire and doubt every day. You are meant to flow. You are meant to move forward. You are meant to rise with a sense of certainty and purpose that comes from honoring your inner direction. Every time you take action without negotiating, you send a message to life: I am ready. Ready for growth, ready for change, ready for the opportunities that align with your higher path. Life responds to readiness, it responds to clarity, it responds to commitment. And when you exude those qualities from the inside, the outside world adjusts accordingly. People will treat you differently, not because you demand it, but because your energy commands respect. Opportunities will come to you because you vibrate at the level of someone who is prepared to receive them. You won't have to chase. You won't have to beg. You won't have to prove yourself. Your presence will announce your readiness. This is the power of becoming someone who no longer negotiates with themselves. Your inner world becomes unified, and your outer world begins to reflect that unity. The hesitation you once felt is replaced by a calm certainty. The confusion you once battled is replaced by clarity. The fear you once carried is replaced by trust. And the beautiful part is that every area of your life begins to benefit from this shift. Your health improves because you stop negotiating with your wellness. Your finances improve because you stop negotiating with your discipline. Your relationships improve because you stop negotiating with your integrity. Your spiritual connection strengthens because you stop negotiating with your intuition. The transformation is holistic because your alignment is holistic. When you decide that your word to yourself is final, life becomes beautifully simple. Not easy, but simple because easy is not the goal, alignment is. When you are aligned with your truth, even the difficult steps feel meaningful. Even the challenges feel purposeful. Even the discomfort feels like evidence of your evolution. You are not meant to avoid the discomfort of growth. You are meant to outgrow the discomfort of avoidance. Avoidance creates stagnation. Stagnation creates self-doubt. Self-doubt creates internal negotiation. And internal negotiation creates a life where your soul is always waiting for you to show up. But your soul is patient. It will wait until you are ready. And you are ready now. There is a different kind of strength that awakens when you stop negotiating. A strength that is not loud, not forceful, not aggressive, but deeply steady and unshakable. An inner calm that says, I know who I am, I know what I must do, and I trust myself to do it. That is the strength that changes the trajectory of a life. Not the strength of pushing, but the strength of knowing. The strength of alignment. And with that strength comes a profound clarity, the realization that you have always had the power to act, but you were waiting for permission that was never needed. You were waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect feeling, the perfect conditions. But perfection is just another negotiation. It is the mind's way of delaying the inevitable. The perfect moment is the moment you decide. The perfect feeling is the feeling you generate through action. The perfect conditions are the ones you create by stepping forward. Once you understand this, you stop waiting. You stop bargaining. You stop rehearsing excuses in your mind. You rise. You move. You claim your place in the flow of life. You become the person who does what they say they will do. You become the person whose actions match their intentions. You become the person whose life begins to align with their highest vision. And that alignment is powerful. It pulls you forward even on the days when you feel tired. It inspires you even on the days when motivation is absent. It strengthens you even when life becomes challenging. Because alignment is not powered by emotion, it is powered by purpose. And purpose is stronger than fear, stronger than doubt, stronger than hesitation. The truth is, once you stop negotiating with yourself, you begin to operate from a place of internal peace. You no longer live in confusion or conflict. You no longer exhaust your energy explaining to yourself why you can't. You simply do, you simply honor, you simply act, and that is when your life begins to unfold in ways you never imagined. Because life expands for the person who expands. Life reveals itself to the person who moves. Life rewards the person who follows through. And as you continue to act without negotiation, you will witness this expansion happening all around you, quietly at first, then unmistakably, then undeniably, until you realize that you have stepped into a completely new reality. In the end, everything you seek begins with one simple, profound decision, the decision to stop negotiating with the part of you that prefers comfort over growth, fear over faith, hesitation over action. The life you desire is not waiting on the world to change, nor on circumstances to align. It is waiting on you to step fully into your own power. You have carried the truth within you all along. You know what you are capable of. You know what you are called to do, and deep down you know that every moment you spend debating your own destiny is a moment you could have spent living it. This is your turning point. This is your invitation. Not to try harder, not to get ready, not to seek permission, but to act. To step forward with conviction, with clarity, with the quiet confidence of someone who finally understands that their life will rise to meet the level of their decisiveness. No more arguing with your potential. No more shrinking to fit old patterns. No more delaying the version of yourself that has been patiently waiting to emerge. Today you choose alignment. Today you choose action. Today you choose to honor the truth that has always pulsed beneath your hesitation. And when you do, life responds. Doors open. Strength awakens. Opportunities appear. Purpose expands. Because the moment you decide fully and without negotiation, the universe rearranges itself to support the person you have chosen to become. So step forward now with a steady heart. Trust your inner knowing. Honor the call on your life. And let this be the moment you finally say, with your actions, not just your words, I will no longer negotiate with my own greatness. I will rise. I will show up. I will do it, because the life you want isn't waiting for someday. It's waiting for you.